You probably did not think about it the first time it happened. You opened the back door, stepped onto the porch, and noticed something strange about the yard. The clucking that had been steady, layered, almost musical a moment before, it stopped. The flock did not run, the flock did not flee. The flock simply went quiet. And the quiet lasted just long enough for you to feel it before the noise gradually returned. Most chicken keepers chalk this up to surprise. They imagine the hens were startled. That is not what is happening. The silence that meets you when you step outside is not the silence of fear. It is the silence of a flock that has just made a decision about a sudden change in its world and is waiting deliberately to see what happens next. Here is what nobody tells you. The silence is the most sophisticated thing your flock does in your presence, and almost no one ever notices it. It will change the way you look at every chicken in your yard. Welcome back. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe, because what you're about to learn will change the way you look at every chicken in your yard. Today we're going to walk through 7 things that are actually happening in the silence. What the science says, what the flock is doing in those few quiet seconds, and why a flock that goes silent at your arrival is telling you something specific about how it understands you. Stay with me until the end, because the last point is the one most viewers never put together, and it changes how you understand the difference between a flock that fears you and a flock that respects you. Number 1. Silence is a deliberate communication. The first thing to understand is that for chickens, silence is not the absence of communication. Silence is a communication. Researchers studying domestic chicken vocalizations, including long-running work by Karen McComb and her collaborators, have shown that the entire vocal architecture of a flock is organized around the choice of when to call and when not to. Soft contact calls, food calls, alarm calls, brood calls, each is meaningful. The decision to fall silent is also meaningful. It is a state change. And state changes in flock vocalizations are nearly always responses to something specific in the environment. When the flock goes quiet at your arrival, it is not failing to react. It is reacting. The reaction it has chosen is silence. Pay attention to that. Number 2. They are listening. The most immediate function of the silence is information gathering. Chickens have remarkable hearing. Their auditory range, while not as wide as a dog's, is acute, and they discriminate small differences in sound that humans cannot. When the flock goes silent, every hen is doing the same thing. She is listening. She is passing the new sound, your footstep, your voice, the slam of the door, to decide what it is and what it means. Researchers have shown that domestic chickens fall silent in groups in response to ambiguous auditory or visual events and use the silence to evaluate the threat. The behavior is well documented in flocks responding to overhead shadows, sudden sounds, and the appearance of unfamiliar humans. When your flock does it for you in the year 2024, after living with you for a long time, what they are doing is not classifying you as unfamiliar. They are doing the second-order version of the same instinct. They are confirming you are still you. Number 3. They are reading your posture. Within the silence, the hens are also looking. The bold ones turn their heads to track you. The cautious ones go still. The young ones imitate the older ones. Every member of the flock is taking in the visual data, your speed, your shape, your hands, your face, and matching it against the catalogue of you they have built over time. Researchers at the University of Bristol and contributors to animal cognition have demonstrated that chickens read human posture and body language with surprising precision. They distinguish a hurried walk from a slow one. They distinguish open hands from a hand holding something. They distinguish a person carrying a feed scoop from a person carrying nothing. The few seconds of silence is the time the flock takes to perform that comparison. It is, in a real sense, the flock's morning quality check on you. Number 4. The sentinel hen is making the call. You almost certainly have a sentinel hen, even if you have never identified her. She is the bird whose head went up first when the door opened. She is the bird whose body angle shifted before the others moved. The sentinel hen is the hen the rest of the flock listens to most carefully when something changes. And her silence, or her decision to vocalize, is what triggers the rest of the flock's response. Stay with me here, because this one is going to feel remarkable. Researchers studying group decision-making in fowl have shown that flocks rely on the assessments of one or two key individuals, and those individuals are not always the alpha hen. They are usually the most experienced birds, the ones who have seen the most novel events and survived them. The few seconds of silence is, in part, the sentinel's pause. The flock is waiting to hear from her. Number 5. They are checking each other. Within the silence, something else is happening. The hens are checking each other's bodies. Researchers have shown that domestic chickens experience emotional contagion. The work of Joanne Edgar at the University of Bristol on maternal hens responding to chicks in distress is one of the most cited examples. And one of the ways emotion travels in a flock is through synchronized posture and breathing. When the flock goes silent, the hens are calibrating. If one hen is rigid, the others tense. If one hen relaxes, the others soften. The silence allows that small biological negotiation to happen quickly and without confusion. Within seconds, the flock has reached a consensus state, calm, alert, or alarmed, and then the vocalizations resume in whatever register the consensus has chosen. Number 6. They are deciding what to teach the chicks. If you have young birds in your flock, the silence is also a teaching event. Young chickens learn what to fear and what to ignore by watching the older birds. They watch how long the silence lasts. They watch which birds break it first. They watch what kind of vocalizations come back. If your flock includes a mother hen, the lesson is even more pointed. Researchers have shown that mother hens use specific calls to inform their chicks about food, about danger, and about safety. In the silence after you arrive, she is teaching her chicks that the human is, in this moment, not a threat. The lesson is delivered in the absence of an alarm call. The absence is the teaching. Number 7. They are giving you the highest form of trust they have. This is the one most people never put together. There is a kind of silence that means fear. There is a kind of silence that means alarm. There is a kind of silence that means simple confusion. And then there is the silence of a flock that has paused only long enough to confirm that you are who they expected, and has chosen to resume their lives without commentary. That last silence is the deepest. A flock that fears a human goes silent and stays silent until the human leaves. A flock that does not yet trust a human goes silent and breaks the silence with alarm. A flock that knows the human and has built a long, careful peace with them goes silent for a few seconds, listening, looking, calibrating, and then returns to soft contact calls, foraging, and the slow restoration of the day. The Cherokee, the Norse, and the Egyptians all said something about flocks falling quiet at the arrival of certain people and never falling quiet at the arrival of others. None of that folklore was invented out of nothing. It was generations of patient human observation, seeing what cognitive science has only confirmed in the last 20 years. A flock is capable of distinguishing one person from another in the time it takes to draw a breath. I am not going to tell you that the silence is a love song. Science simply hasn't finished asking about that. But I am going to tell you that a flock who goes briefly quiet for you, then returns to its day, has performed a kind of approval that flocks do not perform for everyone. You are not alone in feeling that way. Don't explain it away. The yard you look at out your window is not a passive scene. It is a place where every time you arrive, a small council convenes in the space of a few seconds, considers you, and decides, quietly, that you are still you. The day continues. The clucking returns, the work of being a flock goes on, and you have just been welcomed back in a language that does not need words. You have been living next to a quiet form of recognition like that for years, without knowing the full shape of it. Now you know. Tell me in the comments, have you ever noticed the silence that meets you when you walk outside? I read every one. Some of the stories this community has shared have stayed with me long after I read them. I'll see you in the next one.